Welcome to this episode of A Book in the Making. I'm your host, Diana Nostrom, and today I am joined by Kim Muench, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Amazing. Kim is a parenting coach, and she wrote the book, I Need to Look Here, Becoming Me While Raising You, A Mother's Journey to Herself, which was released on the 14th of July, 2021. Amazing. Congratulations on the release.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Not only that, but it hit Amazon #1 new release in the category of parenting adult-child relationships. So
amazing.
Yeah, that was very exciting. It took about a week after it was released, but I got the #1 banner. So it was awesome.
And that's a really good marketing thing to have that if you want to go out and do other things. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about why it is you chose to write this book.
Sure. So Becoming Me While Raising You, A Mother's Journey to Herself is, of course, my story. I have 5 kids, and the book talks about the 6 limiting beliefs that I took on in childhood. And then it talks about how those beliefs played out unconsciously in my marriage and in my parenting for many years. Through my eldest son's addiction to alcohol. And then the last part of the book talks about me recognizing these beliefs about myself and working on practicing shifting them. So I wrote the book for myself because it was a cathartic experience, quite frankly, to be able to do that, but also to share with other mothers specifically, because I usually work with moms, on how they can use their parenting journey to grow themselves up.
Amazing. I love that. So was that the purpose, or other than writing it for yourself? I know that feeling of kind of wanting to, that for me, needing to deal with something. So doing that in writing. But what was kind of the purpose of you writing the book? Was that the core purpose, or was it helping others? Or
it definitely is helping others. It's bringing awareness to how what we believe about ourselves plays out in our closest relationships and all our relationships. But I specifically highlight my relationship with my kids and my relationship with my husband and my relationship with my parents, quite frankly. So the idea was not only for me to birth something that I thought would be, cathartic for me, but also help other people for sure.
Amazing. I love that because it's very, from a marketing perspective, it's very not self-serving. I don't know if that makes sense. And not that I'm saying that, like, I use my book, one of the things I use it for is to get speaking gigs. But sure, that's in basic also to help more people. So, but getting recognized and stuff like that. So
to share your message,
yes,
right. I mean, and I think my message has everything to do with, again, what we take on in childhood unconsciously gets carried through unless we can discover and uncover and look through and question if that's true or not.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so while writing the book, because it's fairly new now, it's like 3 months. Barely 3 months out. So have you been thinking about marketing while writing the book, or has it been like, okay, so now I have to release, so I need to do something? Or what have the process marketing wise been for you while writing the book, in the process there?
Well, to be brutally honest with you, I wish I would have thought about marketing it sooner, but I was so worried about getting the book actually written that marketing came as an afterthought. And what happened was so my intention was to release it in June, and then we decided to move and downsize. And so I put it off. The book was done. It was ready to go. It was ready to upload. But with this move came up, and so I pushed off. And then I felt like 7/14/21 was a great date to release a book. It just seemed like a cool series of numbers. So that's what I decided on. And what I did in the end is I ended up, by the magic of Facebook, coming across a 30-day marketing class that I was like, oh, I should probably take this. And as I was in the class, quite frankly, Diana, I learned that, I mean, people are working on their marketing for their book, months before
Mhm.
that. So it freaks me out a little bit, but I took everything I could from that class and implemented it in the much shorter period of time I had. I had weeks as compared to months, but I implemented it with the goal of knowing that the best thing I could get as a self-published author was the Amazon banner. That was the coup de grace. That was what,
Mm.
so um, I did everything I could in the shorter period of time to be, and with a limited list of um, email list. Like I don't want to say like, hey, I had this huge email list, but I was able to accomplish by a series of different things that I did the banner. So I got it.
Amazing. And congratulations on that. I really think that's really cool. So I just want to say you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Yeah.
So I would definitely, if someone comes to ask me, I would say before you start writing your book, make a marketing plan. But if you don't know that, and there's also a balance between, because I'm one of the marketing tips I tend to give people is to share the journey while you're writing to build your audience. And the pitfall of that, or not the pitfall, the danger of doing that is if you don't follow through. So if you never, because there are, like, I think 2 book ideas I've started on as well, and haven't really gotten that far with them, but that's the danger of it. So if you start marketing that book and it never gets to be anything, you're kind of having to explain that out. So there's pros and cons of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious, as you're saying, like, okay, so you started with only weeks instead of months. You started doing all of these things. So what is it that you did other than the email list?
Yeah, I was trying to make a list of things also, besides a lot of praying and please let me. So like I said, I do not have a large email list, but I knew that that was the place that I needed to start it for one part of it. So and I always feel like, to be honest with you, everybody gets so many emails. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. So instead of sending just verbiage in an email, I decided that I was going to hit my email list with a series of short videos of me literally sitting in the same space that we're in now, talking about how excited I was that it was coming out. Here's the date. Here's what I'd love for you to do, which included, please share, if you were friends on Facebook, please share my social media posts. I gave little 2-minute videos 4 or 5 times before. It was like, I only did it the week before the launch, the Friday before my book launched on a Wednesday. So I did it the Wednesday before, 1 week before, that Friday, that Sunday, that Monday, and the day before. So I hit them with short videos on, just here's exactly what I'd love for you to do. Here's the link to order the book, because it was uploaded before the actual launch date, right? And then I ended up, okay, so that was one thing I did. The other thing, as you mentioned, Diana, was I created a couple of posts ahead of time, a picture of me sitting on the bed editing the book, a picture of me with a box, and I only actually had one of my books, like I didn't order a whole box of them, but I just had a box and my book, and like, like, here's what, it's finally here, it's finally born. So giving that visual picture to people. I did end up, one of the things that was suggested in the class was to have a local book launch party. Fortunately for me, of course, you can buy a book from anywhere, and I do know that people have purchased the book in Canada and in other countries other than the US. But I did have a local, just kind of a small gathering. I invited all of my early readers. So I had early readers give me feedback. I invited all those local people. I invited all of them, even if they weren't local. but it was just at a little wine bar in our town, and just very simple, but I signed books for people who, read it and wanted me to sign it, or hadn't read it yet but bought a copy and wanted me to sign it. So I think that was an important way to connect with the readers as well. Trying to think of some other ways. Those are the top things that come to my mind. But I think what is most important for me to say is, while I initially freaked out that, oh my gosh, I only have this much time, I used it to the best. I think I used it the best I could with what I had. I wasn't gonna, I could have pushed off the book launch date again, but I was like, no, I could keep doing this until I think I'm really ready, or until I have X number of people on my email list. But I need to move ahead with this. And the thing about marketing is, what I didn't realize until the book was born is that now it's a continual thing for me to do. It's not like, you market it for launch and then you're like set for the rest of your book's life. Yeah. I mean, what I didn't realize, and what I'm realizing now, a couple months into this, is that is a constant, it's a constant marketing thing.
When you stop marketing, you stop selling books. It really is like, so whatever you don't get in the pre-launch and while writing the book and stuff like that, you can catch up on it. And you can even try and get on to TV programs and into magazines and stuff with your book, even though it's not brand new, because there might, for example, with the mine about caregivers, that could be interesting for, what about this situation we're in now? A lot of caregivers have been even harder, in harder conditions. So what to do now? And the same with parents with homeschooling and stuff. Right. So then if even now your book is so new, but even if it hadn't been, you would have been able to push it towards media and PR opportunities where you're taking this into consideration.
Right. And I'm doing that right now. I just sat in on a seminar yesterday that said exactly what you said, Diana. It said, especially for nonfiction authors, that the media is always looking. They have an X number of minutes that they have to fill, and they're always looking. And this woman in particular had written a parenting book 10 years ago, but still applies now. So it doesn't matter how old your book is, that you can. So I just completed my Media One sheet and will be using that to get to media outlets. And I mean, it is a constant. And so the book is really a vehicle to help me not only sell more books, but to get speaking presentations. I have some school speaking presentations that I'm doing in the next couple of months, which again, I will bring some books to sell. It's a vehicle that helps you just build business, get in front of people with your message. And I can't think of, a better, plus people know it takes a lot of focus to write and publish a book. So they respect you merely for staying focused and getting that book out there. People who do multiple books, I'm really in awe. But
yeah, me too. And I want to go back a little bit, or just have a comment to saying, I think it's amazing that you did a local launch party for the people who helped you along the way. And I think that's a really good idea. I think what I realized, because I did that as well, and I booked a space in this this cohort space kind of thing where I invited everyone, and that was really good. But what I found was that actually the bookstore in the shopping center, they would have let me host their launch party in their store for free as well. Not that it was mad expensive or anything to do it where I did, but that might have it would have been not as personal probably, but it would have been maybe more of an opportunity to reach people who didn't know about the book already.
That is very good point.
Yeah. And also asking like the bookstores, could I go out and stand here for 2 hours with a small table in your store, just talking to people about my book? I've been doing that. Like in the local bookshop where we live, I had a place to send. My book is a bit difficult because the topic is hard to talk about for some people, at least. The city I grew up in, they are very welcoming, and so I was also there for a weekend, and like all of these small opportunities to get out and speak to people one-on-one, I also think is maybe a bit overlooked today because everything needs to be online, but it's really the one-on-one conversations that enables you to create that connection that will have people help you even more.
Well, and I just, that brought me to thinking, first of all, that's a great point. Local bookstores. I haven't even looked into any local bookstores in our area. I'm not sure how many we have, but I love that idea. But also I wanted to share that something that hasn't happened yet with the book, though, is I have a series of online discussions about the book set up for September. So in the coming weeks, people who have read the book, and I don't want to, I think I've worded the post so that it doesn't sound like you have to have read the book, because I really want people to show up and, let's talk about, in my case, parenting and limiting beliefs. That's just the subject matter. So as a follow-up to the book launch, I created a landing page on my website that invites people to come to a series of 3 free Zoom calls to talk about the book, the contents of the book. So that's just another, to kind of keep it rolling, invite those people who've read the book to come and discuss it.
Amazing idea. You could also do that, and this is just me getting ideas from what you're saying, as online readings from the book on Facebook, live on Facebook or live on Instagram, where you can also, as far as I remember, I don't know if you can do it on Facebook anymore, but on Instagram, you can invite people to join the conversation. Or you could just take your Zoom link or whatever you use and share that as a live stream. So people can join the Zoom call, but you'll also share it as a live stream on your Facebook. The reason I'm saying that, it depends on what kind of room you want to create around the thing you're doing, because if you want to create kind of a safe space, you shouldn't be streaming, of course.
Right.
But if it's more like we want to share and maybe have a talk and just reach more people, and maybe it's 2 different things you could do, right? But getting out to more people who doesn't necessarily need to. I'm trying to think, how do I do this? It's as few steps as possible for the consumer. So having them have to go to my website, sign up for the Zoom, go to the Zoom, and then participate, versus just logging on Facebook and seeing it right there. There's not that it's a bad idea at all. And so I think it's a great idea because it creates the safe space to do it that way. But it also creates, for some people, a barrier of entry for your content. So maybe it's an opportunity at least to kind of do both, to even spread it even more to relevant people.
And that's a very good idea. And that's something I'll think about in terms of, yes, I think I want to create a safe, trusted space. But I also have a Facebook group that I created for people who've read the book. They can join after they've read the book. So it's a fairly intimate group of people. What I could do, I don't know if you can stream to a group, but I could stream to the group, and it's a small group of people that have read the book. So I would be okay with, if they're not on the call, they could still participate through the Facebook group.
The issue that you can get into with this would be that the people in the Zoom call will participate less because they don't know who's sitting on the other side watching. I had someone, when I went my last speaking gig, they were like, we don't have that many signed up. Can we screen it, or can we stream it into our closed Facebook group? And I was like, yeah, but no, I'll let it be up to you, but just know that you will get a worse experience for the people who are actually there attending, because they won't open up as much. So, and actually it ended up, there was it was fine with the number of people actually showing up. So that was amazing. But it's just a great thought to have when people do these kind of things, that if you choose to opening up into the group, even though it's a small group, then you definitely need to share that information with the people participating, and also being aware that they might not be as willing to share.
Right. Well, and I also like your idea of me, like I could easily go online and read a little excerpt from the book as a post, or as a, as even a Facebook Live, like read a little bit and then invite them to sign up and share the link right there. I hadn't thought of that. So that's a really good marketing thing too.
Yeah. And I have a question for your group. So I'm guessing that's also kind of a marketing thing, but why make it a closed group for people who already read the book versus having an open group about the topic of the book?
That is a very good question.
I have a lot of really good questions, if you ask me.
I guess because that was one of the things, and I guess I forgot to say that when I was in this 30-day, marketing thing, it was create a Facebook group for your early readers, and then allow, which I did, and I had about 30 early readers, and then open it up to people who have read the book, so you can discuss the book within the group. But and I think that was brilliant at the time. That's what I did. However, the conversation can get stunted by just the fact that we've read this book, right? Like I don't have a plan at the moment, and I should, as to, okay, so how do you take this group of people that have read the book and you've kind of posted on it and stuff like that, you have this commonality that you read the book. How do you, what's the next thing? Like you almost, yes, you've got the answer. What is it?
What could be amazing could be to do, and that's also one of the reasons I'm thinking it would be maybe a better idea with the open group, but it could be to create a membership. So saying, okay, so or course, but like a membership where you're saying, I have these themes. It could be the 6 themes of the things you've overcome. Those are the themes for 6 months or for 6 weeks or whatever how you do it. So selling in on a membership where you kind of have weekly coaching or weekly worksheets or whatever it is that can evolve, because that also means that you're not getting out of date. So in a year, when people read this book, then in the next edition, the next time you edit, you put in the back of the book or wherever you want, that you can also get more information in our membership, or you can join our membership here where we teach you about things related to the book, about parenting, about all of these things. And depending on whatever price point you want to set at it, you have something called front end and something called back end memberships. Front end memberships are memberships where you go in without people having any knowledge of you really. They've got your free things and they might have bought your book and stuff like that. Then that's a membership. They'll say, some of them, when I looked into it and stuff, they were like, well, max $99 a month for being in that membership. Then you have a back-end membership. That is when people have attended a course that you made, then to keep people interested and follow along more, helping them actually implement, not just learning the content, but helping them implement in the backend membership. And that's just at a way higher price point then.
Gotcha.
Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. And I also have a course that I could create a membership of. And the course is the same title as the book. So I have the book, the 8-week course, and actually I do a digital TV podcast show like this on interviewing moms who are, parenting and building business. So I work under that umbrella. The umbrella title are 3 different products, but that's true. Turning the course into a continued membership so that once people have gone through for 8 weeks, then you continue to, you kind of put them into this resource that helps you continually have contact with them and they can practice the things they learned in the course.
Exactly. And the, let's say, easy way, it's not necessarily easy, but as far as content goes, that would be to make an hours or 2 hours or whatever you want to do, how long you want to do it, group coaching call each week within a specific topic. So a topic of the week, and then you maybe have on Monday you put out a question or a worksheet or something, and then on Thursday you will then have your free, or it's not free, but then you'll have your coaching call or your group coaching call, something like that. That you can of course play around with it, but that's a way to further your business. It's not as much marketing, because then you need to market that, of course, but it could be the next step at least.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you. I think it sounds really great. You have all of these things. I think that when thinking about Facebook as a marketing resource, I would probably do an open group, but depending on the topic. Again, if it's a really a topic people wouldn't want to share, then be careful, of course. But what else have you done? Have you done something on other media platforms or other platforms, online platforms?
In terms of marketing the book?
Yeah.
Like Instagram is a different medium than Facebook in terms of, short, less than 1 minute videos. I talk about each of the different, for me, it's 6 limiting beliefs I took on. So I did a short video on each of those beliefs that I took on. Because the book is also in part a walk through my son's addiction, I did a short series of videos on what it was like to from the moment I understood that my son had a drinking problem to getting him to treatment, and what that was like as a mom. So obviously that social media platform is different. And I do also some stuff on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is just it's more of obviously a business minded thing. However, I can find lots of parents that are on LinkedIn. It's just the messaging has to look a little bit different there and maybe not be so emotionally tied. I more market the business of parent coaching and the fact that I'm an author, but I don't really look at appealing to the, how you're struggling, that kind of thing. That is definitely more suited to Instagram and Facebook market for sure.
Can you give me maybe an example of, because I think you're so right, it is, and that's also all about knowing your different platforms. So it's a different voice you're using on different platforms. So can you give me a small example of what would a post on LinkedIn be for you?
Well, for example, I created an attractive graphic that was me speaking to a group of, it was just me speaking at an engagement, at an event, and questions. How would I know a parent coach is for me? And then short bullet points. So the graphic was a lot simpler and not like a picture of an emotional mother. It was a picture of me speaking at an event. Okay. So I'm kind of, first of all, saying I speak at events for people. So that was another way of like subliminally telling people that I could also be for hire for speaking. But the verbiage in the text itself was, what could be more important than the relationships at home? A parent coach can help you, and then 3 bullet points. And so it was much more geared to someone who might be looking at LinkedIn while at work, but knows that they also have, they have issues at home that sometimes are being brought to work, and adding that, how is your home life affecting your work life kind of thing, but not going so far into the emotions. It's just much more straightforward.
Amazing. I think that sounds really cool. It's all about it's about informing people trying to like help them and inform them at the same time. And like you're saying, like show people that you're a speaker without just, hey, book me as a speaker. So
Right.
that's really
Right. It's a
nice and
subliminal
subtle.
message
Yeah,
that, yeah, I do speak in public kind of thing.
exactly. I think that's amazing. You mentioned that you have a podcast, right?
Well, I guess it does go audio. I have, it's technically called a digital TV show. So I go into a studio locally I'm in Dallas, Texas, and it's professionally done. It's a 15-minute show, and I invite a guest, always a mom who is in the process of building her own business while remaining a present parent to her children. So the premise of the show, of course, with me being so aligned with parenting, is to show other women like myself who are working to build a business while remaining mom at home. And how do we do that? So the intention of the show is to talk about her business, obviously, but also how do we balance these things, and what is your advice, your best advice for mothers who are in this. So it's a 10-15 minute show because I know that people, digest things shortly. I love that it's video, and I love that I get to talk with other moms that are doing what I'm doing.
Amazing. When did you start this?
In
Was that
January of this year. So I've done about 10 episodes. I do 1 to 2 a month. It kind of depends on, I want to have a guest who can really bring a lot to the show. And it's one of the things that I absolutely love doing, but it's not a total focus of mine. I'm focusing on selling books and, coaching parents. But it's kind of I don't want to say it's a side gig, but it's a fun thing for me to do. And it's a reasonable cost for me and it's an out of the box way of me advertising my business. Cause we get at the beginning of the show and at the end of the show, of course, I do a 15-second, spiel of, if you're having problems with your parenting, here's how to get a hold of me.
Yeah, amazing idea, because my next question would have been, so do you actually promote your book through that show? So you said you did.
Yeah.
Amazing, because I think it's important to remember to promote our things and feel like there's of course a balance, because you want to, if I didn't do anything other than talk about my own book on this show, that would get annoying to listen to. And looking at it, I talk about it as examples. If it would have been in English, I would have promoted it more, definitely. But since it's not, it makes no sense. But figuring out where is the limit for self-promotion versus helping people, and versus helping others show what they can do within the area that you're speaking about, creating value for people.
Right.
But also thinking that my book is actually value for people, even though it's something that I'm trying to sell. I wrote it because, and the same for you, that you wrote it because you wanted it to create something valuable for people to read. So you shouldn't shoot yourself in the foot by not marketing it. So I think it's amazing that you're doing all of these things.
Well, and I don't know if you would want me to do this or not, but I'd love to share the link, because I also have a show sponsor. So I can show you how at the beginning of the show, we talk a little bit about me and my book and who I am, and even show a picture of the book. We do the logo for my sponsor. So it's a all really neat short package that is a win for my sponsor, is a win for me in promoting my business, and a win for my guest.
Exactly. So, and that's the cool thing, to get those win-win-win situations. And for sure, we will share a link in the description of the video today. I'm curious about this, because I think it's a really great way to market yourself. There's doing podcasts, doing sharing blog posts, sharing, like all of the sharing. So I'm curious about, how did you start doing this, and how did you get a sponsor?
Actually, my sponsor situation worked out that it was a former client that was looking to build her business and believed very much in the work that I was doing. So there's a potential, for people to look at, like, whatever your business is, could you tap into someone who really believes in what you're doing? That was a way that came about. In terms of, do you mean, because I do a lot of podcast interviews, a lot of them, and I get those through a Facebook group that I'm in. So that's how I do a lot of the podcasting. What was did I answer your question
It was
specifically?
you did on the podcasting, but I was just thinking like the show you then have the I don't remember what you call it, but
Digital TV show. Yeah. Digital
yes,
TV show.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you start that? Because it sounds like it's a bit more like than just starting a YouTube channel, or not just, because that's not also just, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, because it's a studio and whatever. So basically, fortunate to have met a gentleman who has this studio with 8 different vignettes, and it's close to my house. And he's a former news anchor. And he now, instead of anchoring the news, he wanted to help businesses market themselves in an out of the box way. So that's exactly what, I actually got invited to a show that he was doing, and that prompted me to, like, wow, this might be kind of fun to be. And I didn't realize how much I would enjoy being on camera. And so one thing led to another, and I was like, well, how can I afford to do this? Because money was a factor in it, because, there's always a budget. And so I was like, how can I, find a sponsor? And so then I started to think about, well, who believes in me? And one thing led to another. And I kind of threw it out to a group of local women who were business women and networking. And one who just happened to be a former client and was in this networking thing, was like, oh my gosh, I would totally get behind that. So
amazing. And I think you're bringing up 2 different really good points. Using your network, or not using, because that sounds so bad,
yeah.
but connecting with your network and actually asking people to help you, ask for help, because that's, people are usually willing to help. Think about when people ask you for help, how often do you actually say no? So ask people for help. And then before you said something, I think is also really valid as an author, and especially a nonfiction author. You need to think about your book as part of a business. Mm-hmm. It's not, and that's also why because it is usually books and marketing this show. But the reason I also dive a little bit into the other part with you is that I think it's amazing the way you kind of look at this, that it's not just about marketing the book. It's about marketing the book as part of your overall business, and figuring out how to do it in a coherent way with the other things that you have. And that can be really hard. A lot of people have, including myself, a lot of different things that they do and that they find interesting, but focusing on how is what's the core thing that binds it together, and how do I market that in a good way. Mm-hmm. And it seems like you really figured that out. You already have a course, you have your book, you're doing speaking engagements, so all around, and you do your coaching, so you really have what seems like a solid business setup. Mm-hmm. Going back to the speaking thing, I'm curious do you do that as a free service to sell books, or do you charge for your speaking as well, or what's your strategy on that?
Yeah. And that's developed over time. Of course, when you're just starting, it's like, I just want to get in front of people, right? And so I did, because parenting is my topic, I did a lot of local workshops and talks for free in our school district. At this point, I've graduated to being paid for those. I just you kind of get to a place where, I mean, I quit my job to do this coaching and get this book out full time. Like, this is how I make a living. And so after doing a number of free things, I just got to a place where I was like, I can't give away this time anymore. We all have a certain amount of time, right? And because, to be honest with you, I think over time I got much better at it. So at first it was a vehicle for me to practice. You know, my presentation skills, I have no formal training in presentation. So, you know, it was an ability to get in front of people with my message and practice my skills. And I got to a place where I was regularly being asked to come and do these things, that I made a decision that my time is, you know, is valuable. And so that's where I shifted. And so now this presentations that I do in the local school district are paid for by the PTA, so the Parent Teacher Association. And that's never been a problem because the PTA apparently has the funds to do it. So that's how I've created that ability. Now, if I were to, I have gone into a couple of different women's groups locally since the book has come out, specifically with a message on the book. And because, again, I'm new to speaking on this brand new book and I want to get in front of women that I think will really enjoy the book, I'm not necessarily charging for that.
Okay.
I'm there to sell books. So I'm in the middle of this, like I don't always speak for free. I definitely have created a niche for myself and have proven myself in this particular group. So I do get paid for that. And I'm working on other ways to get paid as well. Again, I think a lot of it has to do with you feeling like the message is really there for you. You're really clear on it. You can do a good job presenting it. You know you can, and your time is valuable. And so I'm still working my way in that women's groups to be able to feel like I got this. I know what the message is. You know, I get paid for this.
Yeah. And then while, like with the book, it's a great idea to get the testimonials, because that's what keeps you booking, help you book the next and the next and the next speaking gig as well. And
right.
looking at pricing with the books, it's kind of like, how did you price set your book?
What is the price of my book? Is that what you're
asking? Well, that as well, but how did you decide on that price?
I think it's intuitive as well. Like, you know, I told you that the book came out on 7/14/21. So the ebook is $7.99 and the paperback is $14.99.
Of course. Amazing.
I just, you know, I don't know.
No, that makes sense.
I have no feeling other than, you know, like this is, I feel like both those prices are very fair for the product that you're going to get.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of working on doing an Audible version of the book, and I don't know what that's. I don't know. I'll come to something with that when the time comes for that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to offer. So I'm working on doing the audio for the book. So,
are you branding that already? Are you marketing that there's coming an audiobook soon?
I have not said that too publicly yet because there's a cost involved in getting the Audible done. And so I'm like, as a matter of fact, today I'm actually going to do an hour-long reading of my book. I may be in a situation where I can get this less expensively than I thought, because the guy that I'm working with is excited to learn about the process of creating an Audible. So again, you have to think outside the box. Like I have never had an unending budget. I wish I did, but I'm always looking for ways to how can I accomplish what I want. And it may have to be outside the box. It may have to be more piecemeal. Like I may not be able to do the whole project at one time, like, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, so I don't know if you had other questions on that.
I was just thinking of like it might also spark more interest to kind of say that you're working on it and people getting more hype around it.
And I think after I have mentioned in the past, I have kind of asked in the past, like, hey, if I did an Audible on this, would you and I have definitely had people, at least a handful of people say, oh my gosh, yeah, I don't read books at all. Like I always listen because I'm in the car or I'm walking my baby in the stroller. Specifically, younger moms have told me that they don't ever have time to read a book, but they would listen. So that's why I'm feeling there's enough value in doing it to capture that audience that doesn't read anymore, but wants to hear the book.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I just want to give a small tip on pricing speaking engagements, because what I did, I actually went out from the beginning and charged. And that was because I was confident that I could do it and that I was kind of saying, okay, my time is worth something. But I do definitely encourage people to start off doing it for free if they have no experience at all, like you did. And like that's definitely the way to go. But I heard the author John Acuff speaking on this once about the price, because especially friends and family and people are kind of, could you help me with this, and could you help me? And he gave this great advice: when people ask you about helping in your business or getting your product for free or cheap, and like with kind of this underlying tone of, do you do it for free?
I know you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can just simply say, what's your budget? Mm-hmm. Because then they will have to come up with saying, and then it might get a bit embarrassing saying, oh, nothing. Mm-hmm. Because then you show them that you actually expect to get paid for your time. So when contacting people for doing it, you can't really do it with your book, right? Because that's on Amazon, stuff like that. But when doing speaking engagement and people are asking like, can you come and can you do, and then what's your budget? Because then you can also maybe say, if there's, at least I know a lot of speakers who are saying, if I go out and speak to small communities that I know don't have a lot of money, I price lower than if I go to Maersk or Lego or whatever huge companies in Denmark we have. So that figuring out, you don't want to price yourself too low for the bigger opportunities, because then you won't get taken seriously either. Mm-hmm. So figuring out what's the budget that you want to be speaking, like the audience, the company, or the local group of whatever, what is their budget, to kind of set your price based on that.
And I can't tell you that I have yet to be asked by a larger local company. And I know that I would be in alignment. I would probably ask around some people that I know that have, done major speaking stuff like that, and get an idea of what people charge for that and go accordingly to that. So
makes sense. Totally.
Yeah. It's about educating yourself, right?
Exactly. Okay, so we've been around a lot of different topics today. Is there anything, Kim, that you feel like we haven't covered around books and marketing that you would like to add?
I think the only thing is really try not to get overwhelmed. I spent a lot of time worrying that I wasn't doing all the things right or whatever. The point is, this is a long haul game. This is not, launching the book is one thing. Marketing is going to go on way longer than that. So as we mentioned earlier, just try and keep perspective, do the best you can, know that you're doing the best you can with what you know in the moment. And there's no point in going back and going, gosh, I wish I would have done this. Just keep going. Just keep moving forward. Keep believing in yourself. You are your best marketer. If I don't believe in my book, who else is going to believe in my book, right? So know and be really, really confident in what you got to say and move from there. And just believe that the universe is going to put in front of you the right vehicle.
I love that. You are your best marketer, or you should be at least. And
Yeah,
if
I
you don't
mean,
believe in your own book, why should anyone else? I love
right.
that. I really do. So, Kim, if people want to find your book, find you, where would you want them to go?
Well, they can go to Amazon and look up Becoming Me While Raising You. It's ebook and paperback right now. If they're interested in the services that I do for whatever reason or want to learn more about me personally, they can go to my website, which is reallifeparentguide.com.
Amazing. And that's also where they can sign up for your newsletter.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. That too, all the things.
Amazing. All the things. Yes. Well, Kim, thank you. This has been a really interesting conversation. So I'm really happy that we got to do this.
Me too,
Um,
Diana. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Me too. And maybe we'll talk again with the next book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Thank you for joining.